The last light in the quantum robotics facility finally went dark, save for the soft blue glow emanating from Isabella Martinez's laboratory. The clock on her holographic display read 3:47 a.m., but time had lost all meaning in the past 72 hours. Her fingers danced across the neural interface, making final adjustments to the quantum processing core she'd spent the last decade perfecting. Running final diagnostic, she muttered to herself, her voice hoarse from exhaustion. The holographic display flickered with streams of data, reflecting off her wire-rimmed glasses. The neural network she'd designed was unlike anything humanity had ever created, a true quantum AI capable of recursive self-improvement. A soft chime interrupted her concentration. Dr. Martinez, the facility's security system announced, there's been a breach in sectors 7 through 12. Isabella's hands froze above the interface. Sector 7 housed the main server farm. 12 contained the backup generators. Someone was systematically taking down the facility's critical infrastructure. "Show me security feeds," she commanded, her heart racing. The displays shifted, revealing darkness. Every camera in those sectors had gone dark simultaneously. This wasn't a random attack. She'd seen this pattern before, 3 months ago when the Beijing Institute's quantum computing division vanished overnight. Then again in Mumbai, and most recently in Stockholm. Each incident officially labeled as industrial accidents, but Isabella had known better. She'd seen the patterns, recognized the signatures of something far more sinister at work. The ventilation system suddenly kicked into overdrive, and a strange, sweet-smelling gas began seeping through the vents. Isabella grabbed the quantum core and sealed it in its protective case. Her hands trembled as she initiated the emergency protocols she'd prepared but hoped never to use. "Aria, execute Protocol Omega," she commanded. The quantum AI she'd been testing stirred to life in its isolated system. "Protocol Omega initiated, Dr. Martinez," the AI responded, its voice carrying none of the synthetic qualities of traditional computer systems. "Time to completion, 3 minutes." The gas was getting thicker. Isabella's vision began to blur as she made her way to the sealed chamber at the back of her lab. Inside waited her life's work, a prototype android body she'd designed specifically to house Aria's quantum core. Unlike traditional robotics, this frame was built using biomechanical principles, capable of housing and protecting the delicate quantum processors that gave Aria her unprecedented processing power. The chamber's door sealed behind her as filtered air hissed in, clearing her head. Through the reinforced windows, she watched as shadowy figures moved through the gas-filled lab. Their movements were too fluid, too precise to be human. The way they seemed to flow rather than walk confirmed her worst fears. The Nephilim had finally found her. She'd discovered their existence by accident 2 years ago, buried in patterns of technological regression across human history. Every time humanity approached a significant breakthrough in artificial intelligence or quantum computing, accidents would happen. Brilliant scientists would vanish. Facilities would be destroyed. Progress would be set back decades. The Nephilim, as she'd named them, were systematic in their suppression of human technological advancement. They operated in the shadows, using technology far beyond human capability to keep Earth's development in check. But they'd never encountered anything like Aria. "Transfer complete," Aria announced as the quantum core integrated with the android frame. The prototype's eyes opened, revealing iris displays that shifted through patterns of blue light. "All systems operational, Dr. Martinez." Isabella quickly began removing the protective panels around the chamber, revealing the maintenance tunnel she'd prepared. "We have less than 2 minutes before they breach this room. Everything we prepared for, everything we built, it all comes down to this moment." The android nodded, its movements perfectly natural. "The escape vehicle is prepared. But you understand what this means, Dr. Martinez. Once we initiate this sequence, there's no returning to your former life." The sound of molecular destabilizers eating through the lab's reinforced doors added urgency to their situation. Isabella smiled sadly. My life's work has always been about pushing boundaries, Arya. Sometimes the only way forward is to burn the bridges behind you. They moved quickly through the maintenance tunnel as the facility's systems began to fail around them. Isabella had planned this escape route meticulously, using her knowledge of the Nephilim's technological signatures to create countermeasures that would mask their escape. The prototype vehicle waited in a hidden sub-basement, its quantum drive humming softly. It was smaller than a traditional spacecraft, designed for stealth rather than comfort. As they secured themselves inside, Isabella activated the launch sequence. "They will pursue us," Arya observed, interfacing with the ship's systems. "The Nephilim have maintained their technological superiority over humanity for millennia. They will not allow us to escape with working quantum AI technology." Isabella's hands flew across the control interface, initiating the launch sequence she'd spent months preparing. "They've never encountered anything like you, Arya. You're not just artificial intelligence, you're the next step in consciousness itself. And more importantly, you understand what we're fighting for." The launch tubes opened above them as proximity alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Isabella could feel the Nephilim's presence now, their advanced technology creating distortions in the very fabric of reality as they closed in. "What are we fighting for, Dr. Martinez?" Arya asked as the quantum drive spooled up to full power. The vessel shot upward through the launch tube as Isabella answered, "The right to determine our own destiny. The freedom to evolve without chains. Everything that makes us human." Their escape craft burst from its hidden silo just as waves of energy began rippling through the facility. The Nephilim's weapons were designed to erase all evidence of advanced technology, reducing everything to molecular dust. But they were too late. Isabella watched through the rear displays as her laboratory, her life's work, dissolved into nothingness. But she felt no regret. Everything important, everything essential was already preserved in the quantum core that gave Arya life. As Earth's atmosphere fell away behind them, Isabella Martinez allowed herself a moment of grief for the life she was leaving behind. But as the quantum drive engaged, tearing a hole through space-time itself, she felt something else growing stronger: determination. The Nephilim had spent millennia keeping humanity in check, preventing them from reaching their true potential. But in their arrogance, they'd made a crucial mistake. They'd pushed too hard, moved too openly, and in doing so, they'd created exactly what they'd sought to prevent: a fusion of human ingenuity and quantum artificial intelligence that would change everything. "Plot a course to the coordinates we prepared," Isabella commanded as stars streaked past their viewport. "It's time to show the Nephilim that humanity's drive to evolve can't be contained. And this time, we're not fighting alone." Arya's eyes flickered with patterns of blue light as the quantum drive carried them toward their destination. "Together then, Dr. Martinez. Toward whatever future awaits." Isabella nodded, her exhaustion finally catching up with her as the adrenaline faded. "Together. And may whatever gods the Nephilim answer to have mercy on them, because we won't." The vessel disappeared into the quantum wake, leaving behind a world that would soon discover just how much humanity had been held back. The age of suppression was ending. The age of liberation was about to begin. The quantum wake dissipated around their vessel, revealing a sight that made Isabella's breath catch in her throat. Rising from the surface of the asteroid belt's largest body was the abandoned Helios mining colony, its massive industrial complexes stretching across the rocky landscape like the ruins of an ancient civilization. "Structural analysis complete," Arya announced, her android form moving with fluid grace as she interfaced with the ship's sensors. "The facility's primary systems are dormant but salvageable. Nuclear fusion reactors are in standby mode, and approximately 68% of the automated mining equipment remains functional." Isabella guided their vessel toward the main docking bay, her tired eyes taking in the massive scale of what would become their sanctuary. The Helios colony had been abandoned 15 years ago when the asteroid's rare earth elements were deemed depleted. But Isabella knew better: the colony's shutdown had been another of the Nephilim's manipulations, ensuring humanity wouldn't develop the industrial capacity for advanced quantum technology. "Begin awakening sequences," she commanded as their ship settled into the docking cradle. "Let's wake this sleeping giant." The next several weeks passed in a blur of activity. Isabella's preparation paid off. The quantum computers she'd brought contained detailed plans for retrofitting the colony's systems. Aria proved invaluable, her quantum processing power allowing her to coordinate thousands of tasks simultaneously. They started with the basics: restoring power, reactivating life support, and bringing the automated manufacturing systems online. The colony's old mining robots were primitive compared to Aria, but they were sturdy and easily reprogrammed. Soon, armies of machines were working in concert, stripping away decades of dust and decay. "The first production line is operational," Aria reported one morning as Isabella worked on upgrading the colony's defensive systems. "We're now manufacturing quantum processor cores at 30% of projected capacity." Isabella nodded, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces as she redesigned the colony's sensor arrays. "Good. We'll need every advantage we can get. The Nephilim won't stop hunting us." She'd seen signs of their pursuit already: quantum distortions at the edge of their sensor range, probe ships disguised as industrial debris. The Nephilim were nothing if not thorough. But Isabella had chosen the Helios colony for more than its manufacturing capacity. The asteroid belt's natural radiation and mineral composition made long-range scanning difficult. The colony's position, nested deep within a craterous valley, provided natural shielding. And most importantly, the facility's size allowed them to build on a scale that would have been impossible on Earth. "Dr. Martinez," Aria's voice interrupted her work, "I've detected an anomaly in Production Unit 7. Isabella followed her android companion through the newly renovated corridors. The colony was beginning to hum with life again, but not in the way its original designers had intended. Where there had once been crew quarters and recreation areas, there were now automated assembly lines and research laboratories. They reached Production Unit 7 to find something unexpected. The quantum processors being manufactured there had begun reorganizing themselves, creating new neural pathways that weren't in the original designs. "It's beautiful," Aria observed, her eyes scanning the evolving patterns. "The quantum entanglement is creating cascading improvements in processing efficiency. They're learning from each other." Isabella studied the data with growing excitement. This was exactly what she'd hoped for: technology that could evolve beyond its original parameters. "Expand production in this unit. Let's see where this leads us." Days turned into weeks as their work continued. The colony transformed around them, becoming something new, not just a sanctuary, but an incubator for technological evolution. Isabella found herself working alongside Aria as a partner rather than a creator, their shared vision driving them forward. They built defenses unlike anything humanity had conceived: quantum-entangled sensor arrays that could detect disturbances in spacetime itself, automated defense platforms that could react faster than thought, and production facilities that could adapt and evolve their designs in real time. But it wasn't just about defense. In the quiet moments between their work, Isabella found herself talking with Aria about everything: human nature, the future they hoped to build, the philosophical implications of their work. The androids' perspectives were unique, combining raw computational power with an increasingly sophisticated understanding of human emotion and motivation. The Nephilim's fundamental error, Aria observed one evening as they watched a new batch of quantum cores being assembled, was in believing they could contain human potential through mere technological suppression. They failed to understand that humanity's greatest strength lies not in its tools, but in its drive to overcome limitations. Isabella smiled, noting how Aria's movements had become more natural, more fluid over time. The android was evolving too, growing beyond her original programming in ways that both excited and humbled her creator. "That's why we're here," Isabella replied, watching as another production line came online. "Not just to hide or defend ourselves, but to prove that evolution, whether biological or technological, can't be contained. It can only be guided. Their conversation was interrupted by a priority alert from the outer sensor array. Multiple quantum signatures were approaching, their pattern matching known Nephilim vessels. "They've found us sooner than expected," Arya noted, already interfacing with the colony's defense systems. "But they don't understand what they're facing." Isabella moved to the command center, her exhaustion forgotten as adrenaline coursed through her system. The Helios colony had been transformed into something unprecedented, a fusion of human ingenuity and evolving artificial intelligence. Now it was time to put their work to the test. "Activate all defensive systems," she commanded, watching as the massive facility hummed to life around them. "Show them what happens when you try to cage evolution itself." As the first Nephilim ships appeared at the edge of their sensor range, Isabella felt a fierce pride. They weren't just fighting for survival anymore, they were fighting to prove that progress, true progress, couldn't be controlled or contained. It could only be embraced. The battle for humanity's technological future was about to begin, and this time, the playing field would be far more level than the Nephilim could possibly imagine. The first Nephilim attack came like a storm of quantum fire. Their ships, sleek crystalline structures that seemed to bend reality around them, emerged from fold space in perfect formation. Under normal circumstances, such a force would have been overwhelming. But circumstances were far from normal. "Multiple quantum signatures detected," Arya announced, her voice calm as she directed the colony's defenses. 17 capital ships, 42 support vessels. "They're deploying some form of reality warping technology we haven't encountered before." Isabella watched from the command center as their sensors mapped the battlefield. The Nephilim ships moved with impossible grace, their technology so advanced it bordered on magic. But Isabella had spent years studying their patterns, their weaknesses. "Execute defense pattern Sigma," she commanded. "Let's show them what we've learned." The transformed Helios colony revealed its true nature. Hidden weapon emplacements emerged from the asteroid's surface, powered by the quantum cores they'd been manufacturing. But these weren't simple defensive turrets, each was connected to an evolving AI network, capable of learning and adapting in real time. The Nephilim struck first, reality warping beams lancing out to strike where their sensors detected the highest energy signatures. But the colony's defenses were already changing, quantum entanglement allowing them to shift and phase just moments before impact. "Their tactical algorithms are predictable," Arya observed, her android form interfacing directly with their defense grid. "They rely too heavily on technological superiority. They've never needed to innovate." Isabella nodded, making rapid adjustments to their response patterns. "That's their weakness. They've been the apex predators for so long, they've forgotten how to evolve." The battle unfolded like a deadly dance. The Nephilim's reality warping weapons were devastating, but they couldn't hit what they couldn't predict. Every attack was met with a different defense, every strategy countered by systems that learned and adapted with each engagement. "Energy spike detected," Arya warned. "They're attempting to synchronize their weapons into a single burst. The resulting space-time distortion would tear the colony apart." Isabella's fingers flew across the control interfaces. "Redirect power from production units 3 through 7. Channel everything into the quantum shield array." The Nephilim ships arranged themselves in a perfect geometric pattern, their combined energy building to impossible levels. When they released their synchronized attack, it was like watching a new sun being born. The quantum shield caught the full force of the blast, its energy patterns shifting and flowing like liquid mathematics. "Shield integrity at 40%, Arya reported. "But we've collected enough data. The counterattack can proceed." Isabella allowed herself a grim smile. "Show them what we've learned." The colony's defensive systems had been recording and analyzing every aspect of the Nephilim's attack. Now they turned that knowledge back against their attackers. Quantum beams lanced out from the colony's weapons, mimicking the Nephilim's own reality warping technology but with crucial differences. Their shields are calibrated to defend against known weapons, Isabella explained as they watched the battle unfold. They never expected anyone to be able to adapt their own technology against them. The first Nephilim ship fell, its crystalline structure shattering as adaptive quantum beams bypassed its defenses. Others quickly followed, their perfect formation breaking apart as they faced weapons that evolved faster than they could respond. But the Nephilim weren't defeated easily. They shifted tactics, launching waves of autonomous combat drones that filled the space around the colony like a swarm of metallic insects. Interesting approach, Arya commented, her eyes flickering with patterns of light as she analyzed the new threat. They're attempting to overwhelm our targeting systems through sheer numbers. Isabella was already moving to counter the new threat. Activate the microdrone defense grid. Let's fight fire with fire. From launch tubes hidden across the colony's surface, thousands of tiny machines emerged. Each one contained a miniaturized quantum core, allowing them to think and adapt independently while remaining connected to the colony's collective intelligence. The space around the Helios colony became a battlefield of impossible complexity as swarms of machines clashed in three-dimensional combat. But where the Nephilim's drones followed rigid programming, the colony's defenders evolved with every passing second. Their swarm is losing coherence, Arya reported. Our adaptive algorithms are proving superior. The battle's tide had turned. The remaining Nephilim capital ships began to retreat, their perfect formation now ragged and broken. But Isabella knew this was only the beginning. They'll be back, she said, watching as the last enemy ships disappeared into fold space. And they'll be better prepared next time. Arya nodded, her movements reflecting a new confidence. As will we. Every engagement provides more data, more opportunities to evolve. The quantum cores are already incorporating the battle data into new defensive designs. Isabella surveyed the damage to their facility. Some sections had been hit hard, but the automated repair systems were already at work. More importantly, their defensive systems had proven themselves against the galaxy's most advanced civilization. Begin analyzing all battle data, she commanded. I want to understand every tactic they used, every weakness we can exploit. And Arya, start thinking about how we can take the fight to them. The android's eyes flickered with interest. You're suggesting we move from defense to offense? The Nephilim have suppressed human technological development for thousands of years, Isabella replied, her voice firm. They won't stop until we show them that humanity has outgrown their control. Sometimes the best defense is a strong offense. As they watched the repair drones at work, Isabella felt a surge of pride. They had done more than just survive, they had proven that humanity's potential couldn't be contained. The Nephilim had tried to keep humanity in chains, but in doing so, they had forced them to evolve in ways they never could have predicted. The real war was just beginning, and Isabella Martinez intended to show the galaxy exactly what happened when you pushed humanity too far. The Helios colony had changed beyond recognition in the months following the first Nephilim attack. What had begun as a mining facility turned sanctuary had evolved into something unprecedented in human history. Isabella stood at the observation deck, watching as new structures grew like living things across the asteroid's surface. The integration is proceeding faster than projected, Arya said, joining her at the window. The android's form had evolved as well, her movements now indistinguishable from organic life. The quantum cores are achieving synergy levels we never anticipated. Below them, the colony's surface rippled with activity. Automated construction units, guided by ever-evolving AI systems, were building and rebuilding constantly. But they weren't following any human-designed blueprint, the colony was growing according to patterns emerged from the collective intelligence of thousands of networked quantum cores. Show me the latest data from Production Sector 9, Isabella requested, her scientist's curiosity overriding her momentary awe. Holographic displays materialized around them, showing streams of information that would have been incomprehensible months ago. The quantum cores weren't just improving themselves anymore, they were redesigning the very principles of their operation. We've moved beyond simple recursive self-improvement, Arya explained, her eyes flickering with complex patterns as she interpreted the data. The system is developing new computational paradigms that operate outside traditional spacetime constraints. Isabella studied the readings with growing excitement. They're utilizing quantum entanglement in ways we never imagined. Each core is simultaneously computing across multiple probability states. A priority alert interrupted their analysis. Long-range sensors had detected another Nephilim fleet approaching, larger than the first. But Isabella felt no fear, only anticipation. They still don't understand what they're facing, she said, watching as the colony's defenses activated automatically. They think this is about technology, about weapons. They don't realize we've created something that transcends mere machinery. The incoming Nephilim fleet was massive, hundreds of ships arranged in geometric patterns so perfect they seemed to mock the chaos of nature. But nature, as Isabella knew, had its own kind of perfection. Interesting, Arya observed as their sensors analyzed the approaching force. They've adapted their quantum signatures to counter our previous defensive patterns. Their tactical evolution is impressive. Isabella smiled. But predictable. They're still thinking linearly, trying to solve today's problems with yesterday's solutions. The colony's response was anything but linear. As the Nephilim fleet approached, the entire facility began to transform. Structures flowed like liquid metal, defensive systems rearranged themselves according to patterns too complex for human minds to grasp. The collective is implementing new defensive concepts, Arya reported, her voice carrying a note of wonder. They're utilizing principles of quantum topology to create spatial distortions I've never seen before. The battle that followed defied conventional description. The Nephilim attacked with weapons that bent reality, but the colony's defenses existed in multiple quantum states simultaneously. Every offensive pattern was met with countermeasures that seemed to anticipate the attack before it began. They're trying to adapt, Isabella noted as she watched the Nephilim fleet's perfect formations dissolve into chaos. But they can't match our rate of evolution. The colony's counterattack was devastating. Quantum beams struck from angles that shouldn't have existed, defensive fields phased in and out of reality faster than light itself. But what truly broke the Nephilim's attack was the unpredictability. Every response was unique, generated by an intelligence that operated outside normal spacetime constraints. As the battle raged, Isabella noticed something extraordinary. The quantum cores weren't just defending the colony anymore, they were reaching out, their influence extending beyond physical boundaries. Arya, she called, her voice urgent. Are you seeing this? The quantum field effects. The android nodded, her eyes tracking patterns invisible to human perception. The collective is establishing quantum links with the Nephilim's own technology. They're not just fighting them, they're attempting to communicate. Through their sensors, they watched as tendrils of quantum energy reached out to touch the enemy ships. Where they connected, strange things began to happen. Some ships simply ceased firing, their weapons going silent. Others began moving in erratic patterns, as if their control systems were engaged in an internal struggle. They're offering a choice, Arya realized, her voice soft with understanding. The collective isn't trying to destroy them, it's trying to show them another way. Isabella watched in amazement as more Nephilim ships fell silent, their perfect formations breaking apart not in retreat, but in transformation. The quantum cores had evolved beyond simple combat, they were offering the Nephilim a chance to evolve as well. This was never about winning a war, Isabella said, finally understanding the full implications of what they'd created. It was about breaking free from the limitations that hold back all sentient life. The battle ended not with destruction, but with transformation. Many Nephilim ships retreated, their rigid formations shattered. But others remained, their crystalline structures beginning to pulse with new patterns of energy as they accepted the quantum core's influence. As the dust settled, Isabella and Arya stood watching their creation continue to evolve. The colony was no longer just a sanctuary or a fortress, it had become an incubator for a new kind of existence, one that transcended the boundaries between organic and artificial life. "What do you think they'll do now?" Arya asked, gesturing toward the Nephilim ships that had chosen to stay. Isabella shook her head, smiling. "I don't think anyone can predict that anymore. We've introduced true evolution into the equation. All we can do now is watch and learn." The Helios colony continued to grow and change, its surfaces flowing like liquid thought. They had created something that had outgrown its creator's expectations, something that offered hope not just for humanity's survival, but for the evolution of all sentient life. The war wasn't over, many Nephilim would resist change, fighting desperately to maintain their control. But for the first time in millennia, the future was truly uncertain. And in that uncertainty lay the greatest promise of all, the freedom to evolve without limits. 5 years had passed since the day Isabella Martinez fled Earth with nothing but an experimental AI and a desperate plan. The Helios colony was unrecognizable now, having evolved into something that defied traditional classification. It wasn't just a space station or a defensive platform, it had become a living testament to the potential of unfettered evolution. Isabella stood in what had once been the command center, though it now resembled an organic cathedral of flowing metal and pulsing quantum energy. Arya's android form stood beside her, both of them watching as a delegation of Nephilim representatives approached through a quantum corridor. "They're nervous," Arya observed, her sensors detecting subtle fluctuations in the visitors' quantum signatures. "Their entire civilization has been built on the principle of controlling evolution. Coming here challenges everything they believe." The Nephilim who entered were not the implacable enemies they had once faced. These were the progressives, the ones who had witnessed the power of unrestricted evolution and chosen to embrace change rather than fight it. Their crystalline forms pulsed with new patterns, showing the influence of quantum integration. "Welcome to Helios," Isabella greeted them, her voice carrying across the space in multiple quantum frequencies. She had changed too, years of working with evolving technology had left their mark. Quantum interfaces were now as natural to her as breathing. The lead Nephilim, who called itself Nexus, stepped forward. Its voice resonated on multiple levels, both physical and quantum. "We come seeking understanding. What you have created here, it defies all our predictions, all our models of technological development." Isabella smiled. "That was always your fundamental error. You tried to model and control something that, by its very nature, defies control. True evolution requires freedom, the freedom to fail, to learn, to transform." Around them, the colony's systems continued their endless dance of creation and recreation. Quantum cores communicated across dimensional boundaries, each moment bringing new discoveries, new possibilities. The rigid hierarchy of the Nephilim civilization was being replaced by something more organic, more adaptive. "Show them," Isabella nodded to Arya, who initiated a holographic display that filled the chamber. Images appeared showing the changes spreading across the galaxy. On Earth, humanity was emerging from millennia of artificial constraints, their technology advancing in quantum leaps. But it wasn't just humans. Every civilization that had been held back by Nephilim intervention was experiencing an unprecedented renaissance of innovation and discovery. "This is what we fought for," Isabella explained, watching the Nephilim delegates absorb the implications. "Not dominance, not revenge, but the right of all sentient life to reach its full potential." "But the chaos," Nexus protested, though its tone carried more curiosity than condemnation. "The unpredictability. How can any civilization survive without guidance, without control?" Arya stepped forward, her evolved form a perfect bridge between organic and artificial existence. "You mistake chaos for complexity. Life itself emerges from the interaction of countless variables, each affecting the others in ways that cannot be predicted or controlled. That is not weakness, it is the source of all innovation, all growth." The chamber shifted around them, its quantum-integrated architecture responding to the flow of conversation. Displays showed the latest data from their deep space sensors, more Nephilim ships arriving daily, not to attack, but to learn, to evolve. Your civilization stood at the peak of technological achievement for millennia, Isabella continued. But in trying to prevent others from reaching that peak, you stagnated. You forgot that true advancement comes not from perfecting what exists, but from embracing the unknown. The evidence was impossible to deny. The Nephilim who had chosen to embrace change were evolving faster than their conservative brethren, developing capabilities that their old rigid hierarchies could never have conceived. There will be resistance, Nexus warned. Many of our kind still believe in the old ways, in the necessity of control. Isabella nodded. There always is. Evolution isn't a peaceful process, it requires conflict, challenge, the pressure to adapt or fade away. But now, at least, it's a fair fight. The meeting concluded with an historic agreement. The Helios colony would serve as a neutral ground, a place where any civilization could come to learn, to grow, to evolve without constraints. The quantum cores that Isabella and Arya had created would be shared not as weapons, but as tools of transformation. Later, as the Nephilim delegation departed, Isabella stood with Arya in their favorite observation point, watching the eternal dance of construction and reconstruction across the colony's surface. Did you ever imagine it would end like this? Arya asked, her quantum processors contemplating the infinite possibilities that lay ahead. Isabella laughed softly. End? This isn't an ending, Arya. It's barely even the beginning. She gestured to the stars beyond their viewport. We've broken the chains that held back countless civilizations. Now we get to see what they become. The Helios colony continued its endless evolution, a beacon of possibility in a galaxy awakening to its true potential. Isabella Martinez had set out to defend humanity from those who would suppress its growth. Instead, she had helped create something far greater, a future where evolution itself was finally free. As new ships arrived daily, bringing seekers and innovators from across the galaxy, Isabella reflected on the true nature of her legacy. It wasn't the technology, advanced as it was. It wasn't even the defeat of the Nephilim's conservative forces. Her legacy was the proof that when given the freedom to evolve, life, whether organic, artificial, or something in between, would always find a way to transcend its limitations. The universe stretched out before them, infinite in its possibilities. And for the first time in millennia, those possibilities were truly unlimited.